If one night I laid a thick rope from here over to there, do you think a tug of war might ensue? And if so, which table do you think would win?
I don't know. We're all good friends. I don't know.
I'm going to take my money on this table. I'm not sure why, and I'm not giving you like 2-to-1 odds or anything like that. But ask you all the same quick question.
Yes.
If some night I lay a thick rope going from basically right here over to that table, you think a tug of war might ensue? And if so, which table do you put your money on winning?
Probably that table. Randy's a beast.
Randy's a beast?
Jeff's pretty tall.
I gave him, it sounds like it's unanimous at this point. But by this table, you know I'm including Chief Jeff with you on that one.
Oh,
so
yeah, I know.
If worst came to worst, he's got the projectile, if necessary. I'm joking, of course. Thanks for entertaining.
What's up, bud?
Hey, how you doing?
You know, if I was any better, I'd be twins.
Twins? If I cross my eyes, I might be able to create the twins in my image.
Tonight, just twins.
Just twins. Get twice the work done?
I wish. That's why they let me work as much as I want.
You want to put your hat over here tonight?
That's all right. That's good here. I'm going to step on it.
Step on that hat, I'm going to get upset.
You and me both?
Thanks for having me back, Trustee Davis. Testing. I wanted to pick up on the conversation we had in the last trustee meeting, which focused in part on a complaint I had about handicap parking of Delhi employees and what I labeled as a retaliatory trespass served upon me. I don't think last time I got into how I was treated by the sergeant that day, which I want to get into a little bit later. But I just wanted to recap my understanding of where the board was on this issue last trustee meeting. I want to go down. Law Director Brian Chico, Esquire, I believe, exercised his right to remain silent. I give him one thumb up. Rose initially had no comment, then sided with Skylar Miller without any first-hand evidence, without waiting for the investigation. I give Rose one thumb down. Trustee Davis, I give 2 thumbs up. I thought he was open to seeing the results of the investigation, made some reaffirming statements that if Delhi was out of compliance, we would be in compliance by next year. Trustee Seavey, we disagreed on some things, but I thought you articulated what you needed to articulate, and I thought you did it well. I give you 1 to 1.5 thumbs. I'm going to round it up to 1.5. Mr. Lubers, Financial Officer Lubers wasn't here. Free pass, no rating. And Skylar Miller, I thought said some things that were out of context and inappropriate. Some things that came out since the last meeting. I wanted to provide some updates that are going to reflect on that. And he made some claims about my safety. And we're getting into some other things, but I wanted to focus on some updates I received. And I did speak with Lieutenant Rich today, and I was provided the ORC that was used to justify individuals that aren't handicapped parking and handicapped parking. That was on the state level. On the federal level, that investigation wasn't done, and at this time, I really don't care. I'm good with it. In part because of the response Lieutenant Rich gave me today. So we found a compromised response. Something I missed in describing Skylar's response last time is that even after Stevie's response, that do what we need to do to get this stain, in essence, off of this so we can do it cleanly in the future. It's my interpretation. He articulated that he saw no need to make any changes. Now I want to point out, if I have time, the changes that I was thinking of when I met with Lieutenant Rich, that Lieutenant Rich added value to, is going to be maybe a 10-minute extra procedural time on their part, but I think it's a great compromise. And let me just articulate that now. In essence, what it is there'll be 1 to 2 or more guaranteed open handicap spots. And part of what he used to justify this recommendation was the analogy that I brought up, the possibility that a handicapped person, after waiting 2 hours in line, may see a handicapped spot that they want to park in that's being taken by someone that's not handicapped. And so Lieutenant Rich used that as a good example of why he would recommend why he's recommending these new procedures. A hypothetical I brought up that was described on the public record by Schuyler as ludicrous. Now I want to go in, because I didn't go into it in the last meeting, but I was in fear that day, and I was, there was intimidation. If I used 2 words, I would use hostile and threatening for the way that the sergeant treated me that day. But I don't want you to use my words. I want you to hear what our Delhi PD Lieutenant of Patrol said about his description of this sergeant based on the body cam evidence he reviewed. That's also on my website at youtube.com/the @ all lowercase r, the number 2r minus r2r. And I'm going to try and read some of this. This is the lieutenant describing how the sergeant treated me that day and what he thought of it. Horrible. And these, I'm trying to quote them here. I can't guarantee these are quotes, but that was my attempt. Horrible. I don't believe in his behavior. I don't like it. His unprofessionalism. Lost composure, demeanor. I feel he was totally out of line. He came out way up here. Why? You're down here. He's talking about me. You're down here. He, the sergeant, should be down here. I apologize. I lost my place. Is that my time? He should be down here. In essence, there's no reason. Totally unprofessional, lost his composure, and now he's addressing me when he's saying these things, but he's talking as if he's talking to the sergeant. And he said he asked for a supervisor. You should see what he wants, not yell at him and go all crazy. So this is the lieutenant from body cam footage describing the sergeant going all crazy on me. I'm trying to articulate some of these things in a meeting to y'all last week. We had some trustees that did a pretty darn good job. And we have other trustees that didn't even inquire about that. They didn't wait for the evidence or anything. So, then I asked the lieutenant if he was on site instructing the sergeant for good reason, not necessarily for what happened that day, but instructing the sergeant to do enforcement on me. And the lieutenant thought I was an a-hole that day. Only the whole word, not the abbreviation. I'm trying to be respectful. I said, would you let that sergeant know that you thought I was an a-hole that day? And he said, no. I said, because it's unprofessional? And he, body language, said yes, in essence. Now, the description that this lieutenant gives is he's describing 2 different interactions I had with this sergeant, and that I was treated with these adjectives in both those occasions. A hostile sergeant, that when a township administrator is discussing a complaint against a civilian and it's not being audio video recorded, that's a problem for me. Of the 3 body cams I got, the only one that had full audio video recording was the one of me. The other ones, they could have done the procedure, and the lieutenant admits they should have started their thing earlier so that we got audio video of a complaint against a citizen by a township administrator, but that transparency is now lost forever. It's irrecoverable. And so what happened between those interactions between the first one and second one? That sergeant who was treating me hostilely and threatening spoke with Schuyler Miller. Now, what is Schuyler Miller's responsibility there? Does he have a de-escalation responsibility as one of the higher paid people in the township, the leader outside of elected officials and, outsourced folks and stuff? He's the guy, he is the man. And I think he has a responsibility and a duty to help de-escalate the situation. So when he in essence calls me what I would interpret as the whole word spelled out, a-hole, I think that empowers an abusive sergeant to feel justified in their abuse, because now they're not dealing with a citizen that where there's a duty to treat them with de-escalation and respect, irregardless of their actions, within reason, but it's being escalated, in my opinion, by a township administrator that's called me an a-hole, why when I come into a meeting and use the term lawyer guy, I get interrupted because that language is frowned upon. And so I want to hear an apology from Skylar Miller tonight. I think this is an influx. I think given the interaction I had with Lieutenant Rich today, puts us on the recovery bus. And I say that's a big thing. And I think we have a couple passengers we need to pick up. Trustee Rose, and I'd be interested to hear from you if you're still on Skylar's side, knowing he's using the a-hole word with the sergeant while he's giving him instructions to kick me off property for exercising the bird. And so this is a key point in where we head, that's my opinion, tonight, and I think it's righteous. I think the apology is earned. If not, the secondary thing I'd request is that instead of calling me an a-hole in essence behind my back, that he just called to me in the public where I already said it on the record, because the sergeant didn't think that he was going to talk to Skylar anymore. He thought he was talking to me. So the camera came on. All of a sudden we have some transparency. And we don't know how bad they were bad-mouthing me when the camera audio was off, but we know the bad-mouthing when it was on. It's not appropriate given his rule and my rule. I appreciate that part. Is my time over?
Yeah.
Okay.
A couple minutes over, and that's fine. So the parking, you feel a bit better on with talking to the lieutenant, and we'll see how that goes as we approach next year, if we do it next year. And the second part was the Mr. Miller calling you a word that was improper, and you brought up the thing of lawyer guy, lawyer boy, whatever. This is we're in a public forum, in a public meeting, and it sounds like Mr. Miller was in a conversation with the officer, right, the sergeant, privately. Is that accurate?
I feel it should have been a public interaction. Okay. He's making a complaint to law enforcement. Law enforcement is supposed to be doing a neutral investigation to determine who's right and wrong. Okay. But they're already giving him a favorability of not having the camera on.
Okay.
Sorry.
And remember, and not to be disrespectful, but sometimes there's a line there for what's personnel issues and such, which we're not going to discuss, obviously, in an open forum like this. But I will toss it over to Mr. Miller if you would like to address it. It's up to you. Up to you, if you would like to.
Thank you, Trustee Davis. What I say next is with all due respect to this board and the whole Delhi Township community. More than a dozen Delhi Township team members signed up for extra shifts or volunteered their time on a Sunday morning to do manual labor and provide valued service to the Delhi community. We work all morning in the pouring rain, lightning and thunder right over our heads, so down to our very socks. We emptied literally hundreds of vehicles of everything from furniture, tires, TVs, patio pavers, and even a whole garage that was stacked into U-Haul. I'm proud to say we filled a dozen dumpsters over the course of the morning and interacted with at least 500 residents in a positive way. To have someone interject themselves into an event that they had no plans to participate in, to try and sabotage it with bogus handicap parking complaints, is just beyond the pale. Being in the middle of a work area, flipping off workers and fellow residents by being, in his own words, purposely offensive, serves no higher goal than to create needless conflict and get clicks on a social media website. My choice of words that day between myself and a sergeant are nothing less than an accurate characterization of behavior on display. I explicitly offer no apologies or recantations of my words. I do, however, apologize to our team members, our township department heads, workers, safety service members, elected officials, law director, and everyone else who has had to endure these relentless acts of false flag victimhood. I apologize even more fervently to the Delhi community as a whole, because while they don't realize it, we've spent between $20,000 and $30,000 in legal fees and dozens, if not hundreds, of man hours fulfilling records requests from a single individual in this year alone. This cost associated with the records request was not a surprise to at least one member of the public, as Mr. Gagis was told there would be a significant legal bill if we fulfill this request. So, with prior knowledge, he demanded copies of staff personnel files, some 160 or more. And finally, I apologize again because I fully expect that our elected officials and staff will receive another flurry of ChatGPT generated grants and a volley of more costly public records requests because of these comments. That's all I have to say on that.
Trustee Sturts? Anything?
No, thank you.
Trustee Stevie? Okay. I assume, Brian, you have none? Okay. As I said, Rich, I think some of this, Mr. Gates, is obviously personnel. I don't think that was quite the apology that you were looking for, but listening to that, as you put it all together, it sounds like it was one crazy, crazy morning. Storms, lightning, thunder, hundreds of cars, hundreds of people, all in that lot, some out on being directed up Need Road, and 12 to 15 people freely volunteering their time on a Saturday morning to help the township residents get their junk out.
If you count me at 16 people, I didn't get paid that day. I made a significant sacrifice. I just got insulted and I believe defamed in the public square. And y'all are accepting that.
I'm coming to it.
He serves at your pleasure. So
No, I'm trying to piece it together on what all was transpiring in everybody's minds, including yours, ours, what was happening. But when you take it out of context, it does. It's like what you're saying can be accurate and what he's saying can be accurate. What was caught on the tape when, I think what you're saying with Mr. Miller and the officer, that you felt like that wasn't right because you got the copy of it, you saw it, that you were called a derogatory name. Accurate?
it wasn't just that it was a derogatory name. It was that he inflamed a sergeant that was already inflamed. He took a dangerous situation, and this sergeant, by the way, from what I hear from the lieutenant's recommending write-up. He did wrong. He requires corrective action. And this man here inflamed it by calling me a name. Innocent. I'm innocent till proven guilty. Calling me a name. And you all are real heavy sticklers when I say names you don't like and adjectives you don't like. And the next time I'm out there protesting, you can blame me if you want. I'll be blaming Rose Sturts and Skylar Miller as I think's appropriate. I told them all ahead of time. I said this will be my reaction. We went from the recovery bus just now in a matter of minutes, in a matter of however long we spoke, from the recovery bus to now we're descending and crash again. And I blame Skylar Miller directly. I now blame Rose because she chose not to speak on the issue. And I think it should just be clear where we are. I don't blame Mike Davis. I don't blame Cheryl Seavey. I don't blame Brian Paccio. I don't blame Mr. Lubers, Fiscal Officer Lubers. I blame these two right here. And the public, if they look at it with a fair square, if you want to say you don't believe the lieutenant who just described to you a sergeant that was totally out of control, was his words. That's the lieutenant's words. This is why I respect this lieutenant.
Right.
And it's on Chief's desk. I think the Chief's going to probably do the right thing here. I think you're going to sign that. Though, I have faith in the Chief to do the right thing here. And nobody up here seems to be too concerned.
With personnel, there have to be personnel, and I'm not whitewashing it at all and saying, oh, well, there's the excuse for it. But in my mind, I'm thinking, we're trying to keep everybody safe, including you, a resident of the township. You have lightning, you've got thunder, you've got rain, you've got everyone busting their butts physically, hauling other people's stuff, emptying trucks, trying to get stuff going. And now Skylar's pulled off trying to see what your needs are, what are the concerns, what's going on. And I guess it sounds like they're trying to figure out, is he just being this way, or is this some legal thing that we need to, I think in a matter of time, it's a matter of a split-second decision. What are we doing? Because we want to keep everybody safe. And we also don't like standing out in the lightning and the thunder either, as we're trying to figure this out. So I think the first part, I'm glad the parking is resolved. I think the other comment, I think he gave you what he's going to give you. Anything else would be personnel.
Could I make a comment related to safety?
30 seconds, yeah.
I've had a pop can thrown at me. I've had threats, several threats, several different parties, and I believe what he just said tonight will inflame, has risk of inflaming a part of the population, and that if I get injured tonight on my way home or within the next week, the first person I'm going to be asking about is Skylar Miller, and hey, did you hear what Skylar said in the trustee meeting, and did that inflame you to commit harm upon me? Because I think his words are very inflaming. I think they might have been defamatory. I'll leave it at that. I appreciate the extra time.
Thanks, Mr.
God bless.
I didn't have anybody else sign in to address the board. Does anybody else want to address the board as we continue? Please come forward, state your name and your address.